It's been a minute since we've done a video like this, isn't it? Or hasn't it? So the main reason why I'm doing this particular video back in this format is because, for those that don't know, we've been trying to do lesser videos, but the videos we pump out are of more higher quality. That's why the channel hasn't had that many videos within the past month. But I did want to make a video talking about this. A lot of people wanted me to make a video talking about this, and I just can't think of a way to talk about this that's not going to take forever, because this is, I don't know if anyone's read this yet or looked at this yet, but it's really long. If I scripted this out, this would be huge. So I figured it would just be easier to just turn on the camera and press record. But anyways, let's launch into this. Cartoon Network's Last Gasp. So this is an article that was written for Bloomberg, but this is an article that was talked about by a lot of people. This has a lot of quotes from big people from Cartoon Network or Cartoon Network's past or current, speaking out about the network in this. There's a lot of crucial information to go over. So I just wanted to preface that real quick. So without any further ado, I guess let's get into it. For those curious, I haven't read this yet. I've seen a couple of quotes that I've seen on Twitter posts or Facebook posts or whatever, but I haven't read this entire thing. So let's jump into it. First of all, Cartoon Network's Last Gasp: the irreverent animation factory once cranked out hits, talent, and profits. But with David Zaslav's retreat from streaming kids programming, the future of the network is in question. With this very interesting art piece here, I noticed the girls' design is off. They go their colors all the way down, which is strange, to their legs. That's all, folks, with the WB foot getting stomped on Cartoon Network Studios. You see Wilt, Dexter, Johnny. I don't understand why there's some characters here that just look ugly. All the characters, Regular Show, Samurai Jack, Dee Dee. Look, I love this. I love how Eustace is the one that's getting, because he's the one who always, dies in every episode. Steven, Finn and Jake, Eddie, Mojo, oh my god, the Wander Over Yonder guys, Craig, Gumball as well, Irwin. You see Courage here, Apple, Chicken, Cow, Clarence, Chowder, and the pizza from Uncle Grandpa, and I think that's everyone. But anyways, let's get into it. One night in August, a group of animators headed out on foot through the streets of Burbank, California, cloaked in Mission Impossible-style black outfits. Very cool. At about 10 p.m., the crew arrived at its destination, a deserted office disconcertingly close to the neighborhood police station. For decades, the building had served as the bustling studio of Cartoon Network, which, like much of the cable universe, has fallen on challenging times. Until recently, the facility was a place where young animators daydreamed of launching their creations into the world. Now it sat empty and foreboding, another reminder of the grisly cost cuts that had been sweeping through Cartoon Network's parent company, Warner Brothers. On the sidewalk outside, the animators hurriedly set up a generator, a projector, and a laptop, outfitted with video loop software, and hit play. For the next several minutes, an animated vignette played on repeat across the building's facade. A large disembodied hand, clutching a pencil, rubs out Cartoon Network from the top of the building, then tries to erase a nearby worker who scampers for safety. After a brief pursuit, a pack of colleagues band together and collectively shove away the menacing pencil pusher. The film ends with an unsubtle message: Dear studios, don't erase animation jobs. The group circulated the video online, adding to an expanding body of work bemoaning the state of U.S. animation industry, where concerns about unemployment are high, new series scarce, overseas outsourcing rampant, and anxiety over artificial intelligence widespread. Among online commentators, much of the resulting ire has been directed at David Zaslav, the chief executive officer at Warner Bros. Discovery Inc., who emerged as a frequent target in Hollywood since orchestrating the stormy 2222 merger of Warner Media with Discovery Inc. By the way, real quick, I know it just kind of feels like I'm reading. There's interesting parts in here I do want to comment on. There's just not really much in this article for me to really say so far. Discovery was best known for low-cost reality TV and crime shows, and not known at all for animation. On Zaslav's watch, sweeping cuts have roiled the combined company's animation assets. Beyond the shuttering of the old Cartoon Network studios, Warner Brothers has backed out of theatrically debuting several almost completed animated movies, including Fixed, which is finally coming out, a feature from revered cartoon auteur Gendy Tartakovsky, since picked up by Netflix. It pulled the plug on Boomerang Network's standalone animation streaming service, which is true, that did happen. It closed Rooster Teeth. It did, which I think Rooster Teeth is open again. A subsidiary in Austin that made several popular animated web series, and it removed numerous animated movies, classic Looney Tunes shows, and Cartoon Network programming from the company's streaming service, Max. Somewhere amid the changes, RIP Cartoon Network started trending on X, while animation fans circulated the hashtag #FireDavidZaslav on YouTube. I can't believe, by the way, this is in this article. Because he's gonna read this article. This article's everywhere. Everyone's talking about this. There are people in the industry that have submitted to this article that were taken at their word. So he's definitely going to read this. So imagine being David Zaslav and reading in an official article that a bunch of your like industry friends or at the very colleagues at the very least are in an article where they're advocating for hashtag fire David Zaslav. Imagine being David Zaslav and reading that. It's crazy. Discovery came in and it went downhill fast. Which, by the way, I'm not saying that this article is trying to incite David Zaslav to get fired. That's not what I'm trying to say, but I am trying to say that this is in the article. So it's just interesting to think about. Discovery came in and went downhill fast, says Robert Alvarez, a retired animator who worked on popular Cartoon Network shows from the mid-90s until 2023. Which, by the way, I did know about this. I did know that it was Discovery that kind of changed everything. Like the Warner Brothers Discovery merger, when that happened, it changed a lot. In August, Warner Brothers announced it was taking a $9.1 billion charge, writing down the value of its traditional TV networks, which include, along with the Discovery Channel and Cartoon Network, the Food Network, TBS, and TNT. Warner Brothers doesn't break out the individual financial performance on each channel, but Cartoon Network's struggles have certainly contributed to the downturn. According to estimates from S&P Global Market Intelligence, the annual advertising revenue for Cartoon Network and Adult Swim and its spin-off animation brand for grown-ups plummeted from $668.3 million in 2014, wow, to $133.7 million last year. Like, I know for a lot of people that's just like, oh, it's a $530 million drop. Which, if you think about it, that's 3260, 390, 520. You're looking at an over 5 times downsize. Over 5 times. Slightly over 5 times, but still over 5 times. That's pretty crazy. The viability of the Cartoon Network brand in streaming doesn't look much more promising. A few years ago, network executives were touting Max as the next natural step in Cartoon Network's evolution. But since its debut 5 years ago, a string of programming misfires and increased competition from YouTube have meant that Max has largely failed to emerge as a go-to destination for young viewers. According to data from Precise TV, a video advertising firm, only 13% of 10 to 12-year-old viewers have recently watched programming on Max, versus 32% for Hulu, 57% for Disney+, and 72% for Netflix. Among preschool audiences, the numbers for Max are even worse. The company recently decided that children's programming is no longer a core part of Max's strategy, further clouding Cartoon Network's prospects. Max has lost the kids. This is one of the things, by the way, that I did see online already. I saw this graph of 2 to 5-year-olds. Yeah, they're watching YouTube Shorts. Amazon Prime Video, 2 to 5-year-old? Okay. TikTok. Makes sense. This is unfortunate, but it makes sense. PBS Kids, of course, it makes sense. Hulu, Paramount Plus. This also makes sense. Don't forget, Paramount Plus has a lot of the Nickelodeon stuff, so a lot of the kids' programming is on there. Apple TV Plus, Discovery, Peacock. Cadoodle, Max, Hopster. What's interesting here is that I don't see Tubi anywhere. I feel like Tubi would be pretty good with the kids. 6 to 9, okay. 10 to 12. It seems like every graph on here has them to some degree, but okay. Interesting. Yeah, Netflix makes sense. Yeah, Max is dying with the kids, bro. Look at them. 2 to 5 years old is way down here. 6 to 9 is way down here. Dude, Max is like in the gutter, dude. That's real bad. Cartoon Network struggles have been playing out at a time when animation at large has arguably never been more popular. From Dog Man and Inside Out 2 to the Super Mario Bros. Movie, animated features continue to roll the box office. Bluey, a cartoon series from Australia that Cartoon Network executives once unsuccessfully sought to license, which I did hear about this as well. Could you imagine if Bluey was a Cartoon Network show? That'd be crazy. What is it now, a Disney show? I think. Yes, has been a huge hit for Disney+. And animated shows such as Peppa Pig and CoComelon regularly attract big audiences of youngsters on Netflix. I believe Peppa Pig is also Nickelodeon? The global anime market is projected to grow from $34.2 billion in 2024 to $60.1 billion by 2030. According to research by Jefferies Financial Group, surely many animation fans still hope there is room for Cartoon Network brand to flourish again. So, by the way, the global anime market is projected to grow by almost double in 6 years. So, for those of you who are unaware, and I heard this maybe a year and a half to 2 years ago, I heard that a lot of bigger companies that normally mostly work on cartoons, such as Disney, Nickelodeon, etc., were working to create anime versions or anime properties of either their own existing properties or original anime, like anime, not just animation, anime. I don't know how true that is now. That was just something I heard years ago. But I mean, considering they are really, Cartoon Network is releasing the Go-Go Mystery Machine, which is clearly an anime-inspired thing, and there's a lot of other companies out there that are really pushing for anime-inspired. So I think that that's definitely what's happening, but we'll see. Vanessa Brookman, a Warner Brothers executive in London who manages the brand abroad, says that the network has a strong, growing presence overseas and that the company is dialing up its investment in Adult Swim's older skewing shows, which jibe better with Max's current strategy. By the way, we all knew this. Strong, growing presence overseas. Dialing up its investment in Adult Swim. Yes, we all knew this. Like Adult Swim, especially in America, they're talking overseas. I don't know. I don't really live overseas. I know a couple of the ways that Cartoon Network is presented in other countries slightly, but I mainly know what I'm used to here in America, and that's so obvious that Adult Swim is being pushed. Both Zaslav and Sam Register, the head of Warner Bros. Animation, who now oversees Cartoon Network Studios and its diminished output of shows, declined to speak to Bloomberg this week. Brookman attributes the online uproar over the cutbacks at Cartoon Network to pent-up nostalgia for a time when it was first emerging as an engine of cutting-edge animation, on par with the most esteemed anime shops in Japan. She says she's optimistic about the network's current direction. It's maybe not how the fans remember it, the executive says, but it's not dead. Okay, but here's the thing about this dialogue and this verbiage. Dead can mean two things. It's either literally or figuratively. I think anyone who says that Cartoon Network is dead is obviously not speaking literally. I mean, turn on a TV, you're wrong. It's not dead. It is still on TV. It's still alive, right? So she's right in that aspect. However, when the fans say such and such is dead, it's to them it's dead. You ever like get into an argument with a friend and they really do bad things to you and you say, "Oh, you're dead to me." You're not murdering them. They're still alive. They're still, again, they're still alive. But they're dead to you. That's what people mean when they say that. So it's not if maybe fans remember it, but it's not dead. Well, again, it's dead. It's dead to a lot of the people. For the fans that think that Cartoon Network is not the way they remember it, to them it is dead. And that's where I think the disconnect with these executives is coming into play. It's not maybe how the fans remember it, but it's not dead. I think you need to listen just a little bit more. And this is me trying to be, these people might not be watching this video, and this is me trying to be as respectful as possible, but I really do think you're not listening. It may not be how the fans remember it, but it's not dead. Okay, but the fans who are saying that it's not how they remember it are saying that it's dead to them because of that. So I think you're missing the point. I like this art piece, by the way. I think this art piece is great. About a decade after Ted Turner started CNN, he came up with an idea for a new cable channel that would air cartoons at all hours, not just on Saturday morning or after school. In 1991, he bought Hanna-Barbera Productions a motherlode of classic series: Scooby-Doo, Yogi Bear, The Flintstones, The Jetsons, and The Smurfs, among many others. The next year, he started Cartoon Network, initially reaching some 2 million U.S. homes. The tricky job of figuring out which of the thousands of episodes to air each day largely fell to an omniverse consumer of pop culture named Mike Lazo. All right. Around Cartoon Network's offices in Atlanta, Lazo was hard to miss. With his shoulder-length blonde hair, puckish eyes, and curious wardrobe, including fishing hats and kilts, he looked more like a new wave pop star than a corporate middle manager. As they fiddled with the network schedule, Lazo and his small team studied the competition. In the early 90s, critics were buzzing over Nickelodeon, Sumner Redstone's channel for kids, and its two growing hits, Rugrats and The Ren and Stimpy Show. Lazo's crew concluded that rather than just airing endless Hanna-Barbera reruns, Cartoon Network should also make shows of its own. We went to Ted and said, "Give us money for originals," Lazo recalls, and he just threw us out of his office. That's funny. Here's Mike Lazo, by the way. Admittedly, Lazo's team had zero experience in such endeavors. What they needed was a clever idea and some minimal proof of production competence. At the time, the entertainment industry was enthralled with the drama taking place in late-night comedy. In 1992, Johnny Carson retired from The Tonight Show, touching off a fierce succession battle. That summer, HBO began airing The Larry Sanders Show, a parody of a late-night show that successfully drafted off interest in the real-world power struggle. Critics adored it, and so did Lazo. We're going to be getting into some stuff I can comment on soon. I'm beginning to fear this video might be really long because of how long this article is. The Cartoon Network staff aimed to do something similar on a threadbare budget. They cobbled together a pilot for a parody of a talk show hosted by Space Ghost, a caped intergalactic crime fighter with laser-shooting fists who starred in a 1960s Hanna-Barbera series. By splicing together clips of the vintage cartoon hero with TV footage of contemporary real-world personalities, such as comedian Carrot Top and Bill Nye the Science Guy, they were able to mimic a familiar pattern of Hollywood talk show. Carrot Top is true because Carrot Top, you had Cartoon Network's Ahem Mayhem that starred Carrot Top back in the late 90s. I don't remember what Bill Nye was a part of, though, unless they're just using Bill Nye as an example. Maybe. Turner, impressed by the bizarre mashup of animation and celebrity, gave a thumbs up to Space Ghost Coast to Coast, which would go to run for 11 critically admired seasons, and agreed to fund more series. Unless Bill Nye was on Space Ghost Coast to Coast, which could be what they're referring to. I have not seen every episode of Space Ghost Coast to Coast, so that could be where the confusion is coming in. For years, American cartoons had been mired in mediocrity. For much of the 1980s, shows based on toy lines from Transformers to G.I. Joe crowded the airwaves. The Cartoon Network team thought the merchandise-driven shows lacked the feral ingenuity of animation's early years, when imaginative, wigged-out directors like Tex Avery and Chuck Jones ruled the rambunctious medium. It was time, they agreed, to re-embrace a creator-driven approach. Good. Cartoon Network announced in 1994 that it was teaming up with its corporate siblings at Hanna-Barbera to sponsor a new shorts program. 48 6 to 7 minute cartoons would be chosen for an open call for submissions, then aired on the network. They would turn the best ones into recurring series. Before long, the Shorts initiative ushered in a wave of popular, long-running shows appealing to elementary school kids and young adults, including Dexter's Laboratory from Tartakovsky, about a science prodigy with a flair for mayhem. Johnny Bravo from Vampartible, about a preening airhead and his dating misadventures, and The Powerpuff Girls by Craig McCracken, about a trio of precocious, pint-sized superheroes. As Cartoon Network grew, its staff settled into offices at Turner's Broadcasting Center on the site of a former country club in Atlanta. Lazo's team enjoyed life as the campus oddballs. They held an annual Velma Day, oh that's cool, in honor of the nerdy Scooby-Doo heroine. On April Fool's Day each year, they pulled pranks on their viewers, such as scheduling a round-the-clock marathon of Screwy Squirrel, a wickedly deviant cartoon from the 1940s. When they attended animation trade shows, they'd bring back costumes and parade around the office park, dressed as monsters and villains. Over time, the mischievous spirit of Lazo's staff came to define the Cartoon Network brand, and legions of absurdism-loving cartoon heads happily gobbled up whatever they were saving. Before long, Cartoon Network was starting to rank as one of the 10 highest rated channels on cable TV. And while the network never spawned a hit as massively popular as Nickelodeon's SpongeBob SquarePants, it consistently delivered cult classics, including Tartakovsky's Samurai Jack, Pendleton Ward's Adventure Time, John Dilworth's Courage the Cowardly Dog, and Rebecca Sugar's Steven Universe. Those shows hooked fans who eventually found themselves exploring the broader Cartoon Network cosmos. Here we go. Coming from Turner. Primarily children watch cartoons, but adults watch cartoons too, Turner would later tell an interviewer from the Television Academy. On the average evening, more adults are tuned into the Cartoon Network than they are tuned into CNN, which, by the way, I always love how you referred to it as the Cartoon Network. I still refer to it like that sometimes. Interesting here. I love how it's clearly the Savino designs there. In 1996, as a wave of consolidation swept through the cable industry, Turner sold his company to Time Warner, an entertainment conglomerate already well-versed in the cartoon business. Warner Bros. Animation was one of Hollywood's revered studios, home to Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck. As the merger progressed, Time Warner announced it would shut down the Hanna-Barbera studios in LA, where Cartoon Network's handful of original shows were in production, and move everyone nearby under the same roof. The cartoonists would work alongside their corporate cousins. Which, this is 1996 they're still talking about. Okay. Right away, the two cultures struggled to mesh. For the most part, Warner Bros. Animation was focused on lavish reboots of its famous characters for a new generation, while Cartoon Network was all about conjuring novel universes from scratch on shoestring budgets. Some skeptics inside Time Warner questioned Cartoon Network's approach. Why not just make shows based on intellectual property that kids were already primed to devour? Lazo says, I remember having huge fights in the 1990s with the ad salespeople who wanted to put toy shows on our air. We were mostly able to keep it off the air and concentrate on original voices. Wow. And you succeeded, Lazo. Thank you for that. Thank you for all you did for the animation industry and for the industry of many. By 2000, Cartoon Network executives were able to open their own animation studio in Burbank. To make it feel like home, managers handed out cans of spray paint to their incoming animators. Soon, a mosaic of colorful doodles was spreading across the faculty's main stairwell. Yes, and this is very famous. We looked at this on stream recently. The same playful vibe that enlivened the on-air brand took root, with each floor featuring a particular culinary attraction. Soda fountain machine, a candy smorgasbord, even a pancake station. Cartoon Network Studios has favored a creator-centric approach. New episodes would unfold with an artist in front of a storyboard, sculpting the plot lines, writing the dialogue, and fine-tuning jokes. A lot of control was given to the artists because we felt that they would do right by the shows, says Linda Szymanski, a creative executive who joined Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon during the early days and who now teaches a class on the history of animation at the University of Pennsylvania. To reread that quote, a lot of control was given to the artists because we felt that they would do right by the shows. Of course, 100%. It's their baby. Of course they're going to want it to be as much of a success as possible. At the time, roughly a third of the network's audience was adults, not kids, a dynamic that shaped its programming strategy. Where Nickelodeon intensely focused on elementary schoolers, Cartoon Network artists pursued edgier, more convoluted stories that appealed to a broader demographic, from tweens to college kids, basically anyone who loved animation. We used to explain it as we target a psychographic, not a demographic, Szymanski says. Wonder what that means. Do they dig into that? What is a psychographic? What is a psychographic? The study of people's psychology traits and characteristics such as their attitudes, values, interests, and lifestyles. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I get that. All right, yeah, no, that's great. The resulting shows from Maxwell Adams and Greenvench's Billy and Mandy to C.H. Greenblatt's Chowder were often comically absurd and crammed with slapstick gags, screwy punchlines, and surreal atmospheres. Disney was the kid in the class that's sitting in front raising their hand, Szymanski says. Nickelodeon was the kid in the middle making jokes, and Cartoon Network was the kid all the way in the back row shooting spitballs. Yes! Disney was the kid in the class that's sitting in front raising their hand. The goody two-shoes, yes, hi, I have a question. Nickelodeon was in the middle cracking all the jokes. Hey, man, look at what the teacher's wearing, you know. And Cartoon Network was the kid all the way in the back shooting the spitballs. He's not even paying attention to what's going on, nothing like that. Yes, agreed. Almost overnight, the studio turned into a powerful magnet for early career animators, many of whom arrived fresh out of art school with their imaginations on fire. The pay wasn't great, former Cartoon Network animators say, but the opportunities for creative advancement were unmatched. New arrivals were integrated into an apprentice system that could quickly transform a jittery 20-something into a steady-hand showrunner. Everyone was encouraged to pitch ideas for series. Most of what got picked for the lineup came from within their youthful ranks. Meanwhile, the round-the-clock animation network was grappling with a persistent business challenge. Most of their advertisers were reluctant to buy commercial airtime at night when kids were asleep. And so, in 2001, Cartoon Network announced it was turning a chunk of the nighttime schedule into a new programming block beginning at 10 p.m., 2 nights a week, geared toward grown-up audiences. The network called it Adult Swim. Adult Swim showed a cackling mix of subversive originals alongside reruns of irreverent animated programs from other channels, including Matt Groening's Futurama, Seth MacFarlane's Family Guy, which had originally aired on Fox. From the start, it was a winning late night recipe, as legions of college students could soon attest. Paired particularly well with Dorm Room's bong hits. Okay. Advertisers feasted on it. Inside a former carpet factory in Atlanta, across a highway from Turner's original campus, Adult Swim built a second studio, dubbed William Street, which I've been there. There's a video up on one of my channels. Check it out. Actually, I think it's up on this channel. Which cranked out droll marketing promos and a batch of new bizarro shows. By the 2010s, according to the popular... Oh my gosh, I've been reading this for so long, my reading comprehensive skills are deteriorating. According to the people familiar with the company's financials who asked not to be named, discussing non-public information, the two-headed network was regularly generating $1 billion or so in annual sales and roughly $500 million in profit. Looking back, former executives say the key to all the success, from Cartoon Network's significant profits to its sizable pile of Emmy Awards, was their independence. Without adequate breathing room from Warner Bros. Animation, they say none of it would have been possible. And it seems that they're not getting that nowadays. David Zaslav, the dexterous, acrobatic, and prodigious dropper of names, was just getting started puffing up his new media empire. It was April 26, 2022, and weeks earlier, the telecom giant AT&T Inc. had ended its rocky, short-lived foray into Hollywood by spinning off Cartoon Network's parent company, Warner Media, into the merger with Discovery. Zaslav addressing investors on a quarterly earnings call for the first time as the new CEO, praised the company's name brand entertainers and assets, at various points calling out Oprah Winfrey, Harry Potter, Ted Lasso, Batman, Game of Thrones, Chip and Joanna Gaines, Euphoria, The Gilded Age, 90 Day Fiancé, the Olympics, the Food Network, The Big Bang Theory, Looney Tunes, and CNN, which he described as a true reputational asset and invoked no less than 17 times. Not once did he mention Cartoon Network or Adult Swim. Well, it's interesting that he even talks about Looney Tunes, because it seems like he's going in the complete 180 of that. The previous years under AT&T had done so much to dull Cartoon Network's shine, leading up to the rollout of HBO Max in 2020. AT&T vowed to build a streaming service that could compete head-to-head with Netflix, in part by loading up on original programming, including series for kids. At first, Cartoon Network employees assumed its management team would be tapped to lead the charge. Instead, they were largely marginalized. To build buzz for the new app, HBO Max executives trawled the broader markets for kids shows based on conventional, unlikely-to-fail IP. Among other splurges, they acquired an expensive package of streaming rights to Sesame Street and the latest in a long of rebooted Looney Tunes shows from Warner Bros. Animation. They also commissioned a new talk show starring Elmo. Meanwhile, Cartoon Network Studios, adept at low-cost original kids programming, mostly spun its wheels. Behind the scenes, AT&T began planning a reorganization that in the months ahead would consolidate Cartoon Network Studios back in with Warner Bros. Animation, essentially reinstating the uncomfortable agreement that had proved so unpalatable decades earlier. Feeling sidelined, several team members jumped ship, including Lazo, who retired. In the spring of 2020, when AT&T finally rolled out HBO Max, later rechristened as Max, which is now back to HBO Max, sign-ups were sluggish. Pricing is high, the buzz is not there. Industry analyst Michael Nathanson said a few days after the app appeared, noting that his own children were totally indifferent to it. Somehow, a company with 3 celebrated animation studios and one of the world's largest collections of cartoons had failed to generate much interest from young viewers. Nobody came to me yesterday and said, "We should get HBO Max now, Dad." Which I agree. I mean, HBO Max, even Max, it just doesn't have the name. Especially not something kid. Dad, can I get HBO Max? When I remember I used to, before I had HBO Max, before I had Max, I always thought HBO Max was like for live action shows. That's what I always thought. I always thought it was like for Game of Thrones or whatever else they got on HBO. Like what's it called? Oh my God, was it Mad Men? Like, you know what I'm talking, like those kind of shows. I thought that's what it was for. So of course kids aren't going to be jumping at that. I wasn't jumping on that until recently. Zaslav now dealing with his new company's ballooning costs and vaporized cash flow, implementing a multi-billion-dollar cost-cutting plan that touched every part of Warner Brothers' business. It particularly irked creatives, including cartoonists who felt they were even more vulnerable to the scythe swinging than their peers in live action. When cuts hit Turner Classic Movies, for example, Steven Spielberg and Martin Scorsese jumped on a Zoom with Zaslav and ultimately won some concessions for the cherished Classic Film channel. Who would ride to Cartoon Network's rescue? The animation industry stars weren't famous actors or silver-tongued directors. They were fictional characters, by and large, a bunch of anthropomorphic animals and bug-eyed misfits with nebulous executive function skills. Samurai Jack and Gumball couldn't exactly roll up to the boss's mansion and sweet-talk budget protections over cocktails and signed autographs for the nephews. Quite possibly, the cartoonists were screwed. In 2023, Warner Brothers revealed that it would be shutting down Cartoon Network Studios' home in Burbank and moving the remaining staffers into the Iceberg, the company's glistening Frank Gehry-designed offices a few miles away. By the way, we're at 2023, which means we're probably pretty close to done. What little remained of the network's prized independence was over. Workers came in, painted over the treasured mural of graffiti on the stairwell walls, and pried the Cartoon Network logo off the building's facade. Van Partible, the creator of Johnny Bravo, went back for one final dispiriting look around. It was just really sad, he says. Which I imagine so. I don't understand. Could have easily turned that into a museum, or something. To just tear the building down is disrespectful. It's like you don't have pride in where you've come from. It was unnecessary. It was uncalled for. It was a spit in the face to everyone who worked there and worked for you and worked you up to be where you are. Considering those were your humble beginnings, for you to just tear the building down, I didn't like that at all, and I know they didn't like that at all. Again, you could have easily just repurposed it to be like a museum and $10, $15 ticket entrances, and anyone can go in and walk around. Boom, you're making your money back. Now you're not making anything. Last fall, Cartoon Network began airing Barney's World, a sugary sweet reformulation of PBS's one-time live-action show starring the soft purple dinosaur. I did hear this quote, and I have a lot to say about it. In the decade and a half since the original series went off the air, the toymaker Mattel Inc. had snapped up the Barney IP and concocted a plan to revive it for the benefit of toddlers and shareholders. It's exactly the kind of thing that people at Cartoon Network would have once made fun of, says Saminsky, the former Cartoon Network executive. I agree, because what's being said here, essentially, is has snapped Barney IP, concocted a plan to revive for the... Yeah, so, like, what Cartoon Network is doing now is they're having to get a huge IP for their channel to market it towards really, really young kids and play it super safe because they really want and they really need the money. They never used to have to do that. Ever. It just goes to show you that they're in real bad shape right now. But in the current media environment, the dancing dinosaur is an important draw for the network in the U.S. and far beyond, according to Vanessa Brookman, the Warner Brothers executive in London. In some regions, such as Latin America, where cord cutting has yet to decimate cable and broadcast audiences to the same degree as in the U.S., kids still spend sizable chunks of time in front of the family TV, she says. Along with Barney, the company is also developing a reboot of the Powerpuff Girls and shooting spin-offs of Adventure Time and Regular Show. By the way, to my knowledge, it is not a reboot of the Powerpuff Girls. Yeah, because they're talking about current, right? Yeah, because they're not talking about the 2016 one. It's a continuation. From what I remember reading last, I heard that Craig McCracken is making a season 7. That's what I heard. This year, and by the way, and you're shooting spin-offs, okay. This year, according to the company spokesperson, the 7th season of Being Where Gumball will make its debut on Cartoon Network, as will new episodes of Total Drama Island Reboot, and We Baby Bears, both based on previous Cartoon Network shows. Still a long way to go here. Yeah, still a long way to go. Okay. Brookman disputes the widely held presumption in the animation community that Cartoon Network has largely given up on originals. In April, it began airing Roy Okupe's Ianu, a new series about a teenage girl with magical powers. But in the current environment, Brookman says, reboots of past hits make good business sense. They're easier to market cross-culturally to global audiences, and middle-aged parents are eager to introduce the vintage Cartoon Network characters to their own kids, the kind of multi-generational on-ramp that rivals like Disney have been so good at building over the years. I agree 1,000%, and I can't believe it took you guys over 20 years to finally be like, oh, we should create characters that span generations. That's like we're making a business 101. You don't make a business to see how much money you can make in year one. You make a business to see how much money you can make across like a span of like 30 to 40 years. You can't do that if you don't have a multi-generational character. Like, come on. The easiest way for me to do that now is to do it with our really beloved IP, Brookman says. Retired animator Robert Alvarez says the future of the network, Scooby-Doo is like a vampire. You can't kill it. I mean, that's true. In the meantime, Warner Bros. Discovery continues to run out pieces of its historic inventory as it keeps paying down debt. Along the way, most of Cartoon Network's past shows have been pulled from Max, either shelved to save money on upkeep costs such as residual payments or to writers and actors, or licensed out to streaming services, primarily Walt Disney Co.'s Hulu. The paucity, is that word right? The paucity reflects a recent turn in strategy. In December, when Warner Bros. Announced it would no longer pay for exclusive new episodes of Sesame Street on Max, it conceded that the intended audience, kids, wasn't there. Based on consumer usage and feedback, we had to prioritize and focus on stories for adults and families, a Max spokesperson talked at the time. Meanwhile, much of the kids' material commissioned for Max launch in the AT&T years has already been removed from the app, such as the short-lived Elmo talk show, which has mercifully vanished. They went with Safe Crap, which obviously failed, Alvarez says. Of course. A recent pursuit of the Cartoon Network tile on the Max app revealed a total of 11 series to choose out of the hundreds of shows that have aired on the cable channel over the years. Which, by the way, this isn't that what I just said basically about them getting Barney's World? It's exactly the kind of thing that people at the network would have made fun of. Yeah. If there remains a source of hope for Cartoon Network's more disillusioned fans and alumni, it exists some 2,000 miles away in Atlanta, where Adult Swim still resides. On a Tuesday morning in February, Michael Owleen, president of Cartoon Network and head of Adult Swim, strolled through the hallways at the Williams Street studio. If you squinted, it almost felt like the heady days of peak cartoon. Owleen went past a gaggle of young art school grads in training and a room with a guy animating a scene of a tree falling on a screaming character. He walked into a windowless room where, amid a smattering of tripods, cameras, and papier-mâché, I think it's just paper-mâché, workers were preparing an elaborate April Fool's stunt for the amusement of the network's fans. Several weeks later, on April 1st, Adult Swim broadcast half-hour special of its hit show, Rick and Morty reimagined as live-action theater sketches. Owleen, who helped to start Adult Swim more than 2 decades ago, and has worked in almost every aspect of animation series creation, from programming to marketing, says its mission essentially remains the same. Find talented artists with a unique point of view and help them realize their visions. He pointed out that it still maintains a short program to act as a pipeline for new talent. Under the current iteration, artists can get between 6,000 and 8,000 to develop brief videos, roughly 50 of which are presented on Adult Swim's YouTube channel every year. 6,000 to 8,000. Huh. 50. So basically, let's highball it. Let's say that they're actually spending $8,000. I'm just going to say this, $8,000 is not a lot of money. It's saying they can get. Oh, I see. Well, still, to develop brief videos, roughly 50 of which are presented. 50 videos. So I'm so confused by this. One artist makes 50 videos, or there is a multiple of artists that made 50 videos, and they each got 6 to 8,000 individually, or they each got to split that amount? I'm curious on that. If they got to split it, that's horrible. Even if they got it, if one person is making 50 videos, $8,000. I mean, $8,000 is not a lot of money. It's not. It sounds a lot of money like right now. Like if you're like, man, I have $200 in my bank account. Hey, you want $8,000? Oh, I'd love $8,000. Right. It sounds really good in like the now. But like if you really think about it like long term, that $8,000 is going to be gone in like a couple of months, like 2 months. It's gone. Right. And that's if you're really budgeting it. What if you've got like a whole bunch of debt and you just pay it all off? Boom, it could be gone in like a week, right? With cable TV audiences continuing to skew older, Warner Brothers keeps handing over large chunks of Cartoon Network's daily airtime to Adult Swim. Yes, which at the moment seems poised to have a brighter future than the mothership. It currently has 2 series in production at William Street and 5 other new or recurring series that will air new episodes in 2025. In late May, its biggest hit, Rick and Morty, will come back for its 8th season, albeit without co-creator Justin Roiland, who was forced out of being... he was being accused of domestic violence. I do remember hearing about that. Owleen says there's been no pressure from above to shift into reboot mode. We've never been questioned on why we do all originals now. Everyone's fine with it. For now, the network's fate remains tied to the troubled fortunes of Warner Brothers, which has lost more than 60% of its market's value since Zaslav took over. Which, by the way, that's ginormous. 60% is a lot. When did Zaslav take over? 2022? You're telling me in 3 years? We're talking about Warner Brothers, who's been around for, almost 100 years at this point? $102 years. 102, like really put this into perspective. 102 years Warner Brothers has been a thing. This guy Zaslav, 3 years, lost more than 60% of its market value. How do you do it? Like I feel like you could have just hired like those like store mannequins that like the people who run this, they put the clothes on so that customers who look at the mannequin can tell like oh, I'd look good in that, you know? You could have put a mannequin as the CEO of Cartoon Network, and it would have been better off than what happened now. It wouldn't have lost 60% of its market value. Are you kidding me? How do you do that? How is that even possible? Earlier this year, the company completed a reorganization that essentially carves out the legacy basic cable networks, including Cartoon Network and Adult Swim, from the rest of the company's assets. On the morning of May 8th, Warner Bros. Revealed it had added another 5.3 million streaming customers in the first 3 months of the year. And that adjusted profit from the streaming unit had grown, to $339 million. Okay, I guess that's good, right? Afterward, a CNBC reporter speculated that on the air that Warner Brothers will almost definitely spin off its new cable network divisions, when Warner Brothers' share price soaring as much as 8.6%, strong sign that the market is eager for Zaslav to jettison the aging channels. It's not good. Having paid down the company's debt significantly over the past 3 years, Zaslav is better positioned than ever to ramp up the company's investment in original animation if he wants to. Oh boy. To date, he's remained mum on his plans for Cartoon Network and Adult Swim. While the future for animated kids shows for TV looks iffy at Warner Brothers, the company is still pouring hundreds of millions of dollars into feature-length animated movies for kids, which mostly continue to perform well at the box office. Warner Brothers Pictures Animation has several big animated movies slated for theatrical distribution in the years ahead, from a reboot of The Cat in the Hat to a musical comedy titled Bad Fairies. Auline isn't worried about the future of animation at Warner Brothers and beyond. The entire history of cartoons, he points out, has been marked by almost non-stop technological disruption. And this is from Auline. Animation is amazing at adapting to a different economic reality or a different consumption habit. He says, even so, Adult Swim will have to continue to grapple with the same downward viewership pressure that is affecting all of cable TV. According to Variety's year-end analysis of Nielsen ratings data, in 2014, Adult Swim averaged 1.3 million total viewers in primetime. By last year, that figure had dropped to 210,000. Fortunately, Adult Swim shows tend to live easily these days alongside the kind of prestige HBO dramas, edgy comedies, and indie A24 movies that have come to largely define Max's core offerings. Which that's very true. Adult Swim has I mean, have they had any of Cartoon Network's like downtime, like down? I don't think, like, a lot of people stopped watching Cartoon Network. Did people stop watching Adult Swim? I don't think so. I think more people watch Adult Swim now. In February, Adult Swim began airing Common Side Effects, a comedy caper about an amateur scientist who discovers the mountains of Peru magic mushrooms capable of healing just about every human ailment, and is subsequently hunted down by a shadowy cabal of big pharma execs. Which, by the way, I want to watch that show. It looks pretty good. The Bloody Paranoid Gonzo show seems perfectly engineered for the current Make America Healthy Again moment. It's the output of an impressive creative pedigree that includes a former writer for Veep, the co-creator of Scavenger's Reign, and Mike Judge from King of the Hill and Beavis and Butthead. Ooh, Mike Judge. Following its debut, Common Side Effects regularly appeared in the top 10 most popular series on Max, and among critics, it has received the kind of effusive praise often reserved for auteur-driven serialized dramas, which I've heard. That's another reason why I really want to watch it. In March, Warner Bros. Announced it was re-upping the show for a second season, a rare bit of good news amid the broader funk hanging over the industry. See, Auline says, we can have nice things. Which, this is the end of the article. I don't understand what this means, because here's the thing, it's like, I get it, I get he's joking. But, like, brother, this is you right now. Like, this is actually you. Like, just get rid of "this is fine" and just take this. See, we can have nice things. You see what I'm talking about? You see how the meme is the same? Or like, this is fine. What are you talking about, this is fine? This is not fine. We can have nice things, sure. But I mean, dude, the network has gone through over a decade of one of the worst droughts it's ever seen. The worst drought it's ever seen. Ever. Of viewership, of shows, of animation, just of everything. Brother, I get the meme. I get the joke. There's a time and a place for everything. I don't know if this was a great joke. I really don't. I mean, this is... I can't think of a better way to describe it other than this. Like, the network is failing. You guys are having a really, really hard time. Everyone is stressed out. Everyone in the entire animation community is stressed out. This is the comforting thing you had to say? See, we can have nice things. I felt, again, I get what he was saying. I get where he was coming from. I understand this is probably a joke. But I'm just trying to relate to the people in the animation industry. I feel like this was worded poorly and probably should have been maybe something a bit more like to lift people up, right? Like, this is the first of many. Or something like that. Something to tell people like, oh, okay, they're to say, see, we can have nice things when all you've done is greenlight one good show in 15 years. Like, that's not a flex. Or if it is, it's not the flex you think it is. But anyways, you guys, what do you guys think of the Bloomberg article? It's a very interesting one here. I'm excited to post this online for you guys. And we can talk about it. Curious which one. I'm probably going to use this as my thumbnail. This is just such a fun one. But anyways, you guys, leave your comments down below. Let's have a conversation about this. This is very interesting. There's so much to talk about. So many people's own words that went in here. Just very curious what you guys think. Let's have a conversation. I'll see you guys in the comments section. I'll see you guys in the comment section down below. 50 minutes. Here we are. All right. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks so much to Prince Tendley, Ryan Wilkins, and Kame Senin for all becoming members. If you would also like to become a member, on my channel there exists multiple different tier levels, and you can pick out which one is best for you.